Good morning and a warm welcome to each and every one of you to our Wisdom Wednesday webinar. It gives me great pleasure to be your host today. Could I please ask that Sanele to please mute? I know we're excited, but yes, we do have a wonderful topic ahead of us in terms of time management and self-management and being able to just get more done, within our day. And yeah, at Academy of York, we know that studying is vital. Being able to juggle the time that we do have, it is quite important. And when you actually do refer a friend or a colleague to the college, it gives you that kind of support to, somebody that's close by that is able to assist you throughout your study journey. And in doing so, with the times being a bit tough, being cash strapped, you're able to as well earn yourself some study credits while doing so. So there's a bonus to that as well. There's a bonus to that. My name is Rita. I'm your host for today. And I do have our guest speaker, Carol Fenter, on the line. Good morning, Carol.
Hello, good morning, Rita. Lovely to see you again.
Likewise. It's a bit chilly this morning, though. But the sun is out, so we're being hopeful, we're being optimistic.
We are. Summer can come back now.
Definitely. So Carol is actually a specialist within employee wellness. She does have a background in terms of education. I seem to have been muted there.
I don't know what happened.
Not sure. I'm back. Welcome, has joined us. As I was saying, our guest speaker, Carol, does have an exceptional background in education in terms of Wits University as well as university. But she does specialize within leadership and management, employee well-being and development, even personal development. And I believe that Carol, being an experienced leader, one of her passions is about people, supporting individuals. And some of the other passions include your education and awareness about mental health and wellness. So yes, Carol will be leading us in terms of the webinar today. Time management, my apology. And yeah, looking forward to it, Carol. You can kick it off.
Thank you so much, Rita. Yeah, I just want to share about, for some reason, my Teams has been a bit strange this morning, even though I've had 3 other sessions. So for any reason I get booted out or I lag or something like that, if you'll just bear with me. I don't know what's going on, but we will soldier on and we're going to use this time together as best as we can. So thank you for everybody who has joined. I'm going to share my slides. So let's get that. Oh, and what is this even doing now in terms of sharing my screen? There we go. Something's happening with my Teams today, that is for sure. Right, is that sharing? Please tell me you can see that, Rita?
Not as yet.
Not as yet, okay.
Not as yet. Probably needs to just warm up a bit.
There we go. Share. Ooh, and now my presentation disappeared. Sorry, everybody. Give me a minute to find it. Okay, yes, Teams loading. Goodness knows what. technology does some days where it just decides to do its own thing. Any chance that is showing?
We're getting there. We're getting there. Perfect. There we go.
Wonderful. Thank you
There we
so
go.
much. Right. I do worry now that it didn't give me an option to put my sound on. So we might have a struggle with the videos, but let's keep going and let's just see. If the videos don't play, that's fine. I can certainly speak to it and I can try to be a little bit animated. So let's start with why we're here today, looking at time management and managing ourselves. And I think, Rita, you've already touched on that today's pace is just crazy. Everything is so busy. We are juggling so many balls at the moment, especially with working and studying. And time management really is a critical skill. We kind of take it for granted. We think time will just manage itself. But the truth is that it doesn't. We are the ones that have to take control, and we have to manage our time and get the most out of it. So what we're going to go through today is just looking at the importance of it, some of the challenges that we face with managing our time, procrastination and why that gets in our way. I'm going to share the concept of eating the frog with you. We're going to look at how to prioritize. We're going to look at something called the Pomodoro technique. I'll work on saying that properly. The Pomodoro technique. Avoiding busyness and actually just getting busy, getting things done, and then looking at some strategies. All right. So, yeah, I think the aha moments, about time management is really that we can only manage time to a certain degree, right? We can only really manage ourselves, though. So it's what I do with the time on my hands. It's it's how I make the most of the 24 hours in a day, noting that at least 7 of those should be kept sleeping. So we only have so much time in a day, but also we all get the same amount. We can't actually change that. We don't want to cut back on our sleep because that's not healthy. And we have to find tools and systems and things that can help us to manage our time. But what we're really doing is becoming self-disciplined and managing ourselves. Right. So do you feel that you have too much to do and that you have too little time? I think I say that at least once or twice a day, that I just don't have enough time. And the more we say that, the more we make an excuse, really. We're letting ourselves off the hook there because it's like, oh, well, I can't get it done. I don't have the time. There's too much on my plate. But again, I share with you, we all have the same time. We all get the same amount of hours in a day. So we have to stop blaming the circumstances around us, and we have to take control. So we have to get used to the fact that there isn't enough time, but what we have to make the most of. Rita, I just want to check that you can hear and see me and that my Teams isn't being naughty.
All good, all good.
Thank you.
You're doing great.
Wonderful, thank you. All right. So the importance of time management, and I want you just to think of this morning when you got up. What time did your day start? I had a 5 a.m. session this morning, so I was up at 4. But even just getting up at 4 o'clock, there was so much to do. Sorry, can I just ask
Let's put this on, I can move it on.
On mute. I can hear somebody else in the background there. Sorry. Thank you so much. All right. So yes, I was sharing that I got up at 4 o'clock this morning because my work day started at 5 a.m. I still had to get my son to school. I still had to have a cup of coffee, else I just couldn't function. I had to get dressed. I knew my camera would be on, so I had to put makeup on. I already checked my emails. I checked my phone. The day started with a bang. And you have to think carefully about how you manage your mornings and what you do with the morning, because that bit of time that you have really sets the pace for the day. If you wake up and your morning is absolute chaos, the rest of your day is probably going to just be chaotic as well. And you're not going to feel in control. You're just going to feel like all those balls and all those things are just dropping out of the air and you can't keep them going, or you can't keep them up. So yeah, you need to, and there we go. I'm going to carry on a little bit with that later, but we need to remember that time management really, really, it matters, because with good time management, you can accomplish so much more. You can hopefully get it done in a shorter period of time as well. And the benefit of that is that it will free up more time for you to maybe do some of the things that really matter, It provides more opportunities perhaps to do things that you enjoy, a little bit more me time that you can perhaps squeeze in, a little bit more time to relax, to play some sort of sports or something. But yeah, we have to really make sure that we manage our time, because the ripple effect, if we don't, is that it will impact every area of our life and even our mental health, because our stress levels go through the roof. We struggle then with our sleep because we're worrying, we're lying awake worrying at night, then we oversleep, the day just starts in complete chaos again. So it really is important to look at how we manage ourselves and how we manage our time. And the truth is that successful people don't get more time. The Bill Gates of the world, and the guy that does Facebook, is it Mark Zuckerman, I think? I forget all those fancy names mixed up, but those individuals have the same amount of time that you and I have. It's just that they manage their time better. And I'm sure you've heard the saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person to get it done, because they're the ones that will get it done. Somehow they still find the time to do it. Their plates are full, but you can ask them to help you with something and they manage to get it done. So what are the benefits of time management? What is in it for me if I do manage to grasp the skill, or I sharpen this tool and I do manage to implement it in my life? Well, firstly, it's that it increases your efficiency. The more time, the better that you manage your time and the more time you free up for yourself, the more efficient you can be. You could have, let's say, 8 hours in the working day. But if you can really work efficiently and get things done, and I'll share some more tips with you on that just now, you can fit more things in. And I'm not saying that you must completely overload your plate and just take on more and more and more and more and say yes to everything that comes your way, because you have to look after yourself as well. You have to make sure that you are staying healthy in terms of your physical and your mental health. And you need time for yourself and your loved ones. But when you can do some things quicker, and you can get them done and get them off that to-do list sooner, it means that you can be more efficient. If you work smarter, as they say, and not harder, you can actually get more done. Another benefit is that you will feel better. You'll feel calmer, you'll feel more in control, and that will mean that your stress levels lower as well. So that is such a great benefit of time management, especially in this crazy world where many of us are struggling with hectic stress levels, with stress levels that seem like they're through the roof right now. And I don't know about you, but I certainly feel that this year has been on fast forward, and it's gone past so quickly. And there's so much that has happened in this year. Yesterday, I saw that the Christmas decorations and gifts were unpacked at my local grocery shop, and I thought to myself, good Lord, I feel like we're still in March. I've got so much to achieve this year. So it can be quite overwhelming when we look at what we've got left for this year. There are a few weeks before Christmas. There's a few weeks before New Year's, and we have so much to get done. So we often feel overwhelmed. But if we can manage the time that we have, if we can really look at how we put these next few weeks and the hours in those days to good use, we'll feel better about ourselves, we'll lower our stress levels, feel more calm, and we'll be able to actually keep going. Another benefit is that you'll feel happier. When we feel like we're achieving something, it helps us to feel motivated. It helps us to feel good about ourselves at the end of the day. So feeling that sense of control, feeling that you are on top of things, not feeling overwhelmed and that, you know, you're just on that hamster wheel that's going round and round and round and round and round and you can't stop it. You know, the more in control you are, the more you're managing your time and you're managing yourself and being disciplined, the more in control you will feel and the happier that, you know, you'll feel. And think about it, if you could free up an hour today, if you could work more efficiently and manage your time better today and get an hour just for yourself, imagine how happy you'd feel. Imagine how good you'd feel. I mean, I would go straight to the gym because that's my happy place and that's where I can really just put the day behind me. If I can go just walk on the treadmill for a little bit, do some stretching and listen to my music. So imagine if you could really get your time management skills to such a point that you could have an extra hour to yourself every day. Another thing that good time management does for us is it helps us to increase our energy. You know, we feel more energized because, again, we feel in control. We're getting more done, maybe in shorter time. And we're not feeling that everything is just exhausting because I'm trying so hard to keep those balls up in the air. So the more you manage in your time, the more energy you have, even if you are taking on a little bit more because you're working more effectively. And did you know that when you accomplish something, when you finish a task, for example, and let's say today you've got an assignment that you're working on or a project, you know, that you're working on and you finish it, as you finish it and you're able to say, wow, that's done, your brain releases endorphins and a happy hormone into your brain called dopamine that helps to give you a boost and give you a natural high and give you a surge of energy to keep going for the rest of the day. So getting things done actually gives you more energy, which is lovely because then you can get more things done again. Another benefit of time management is that it increases our skills and it increases our confidence. So as you learn to manage yourself and as you learn to be more disciplined and using some of the time management techniques that I'm going to share with you, it helps to develop and helps you to learn other qualities as well. You know, you learn to be persistent. You learn, you know, to be a go-getter. You learn to be assertive because we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries as well, and that sometimes we need to say no. And all of these skills can be improved and give you a sense of increased confidence if you are managing your time better. And another thing that good time management does is it helps us to achieve our goals. Makes sense, doesn't it? If you've got the time to do it and you've got the goals in place, you're going to achieve them, right? So if you want to achieve your goals, you know, quicker, faster, managing your time will do that for you. It will help you to get to that goal in a quicker time. And I'm not saying rush to it. You know, I'm not saying that we must neglect things along the way because we're rushing now and that rushing is a way of managing our time. Absolutely not. It just means, you know, being focused and getting things done. And ticking those things off, feeling that sense of achievement so that we keep moving forward, rather than just feeling overwhelmed and taking, you know, no steps at all to get where we need to go. And you can really break down if a week feels overwhelming, you know, and you've got let's say a deadline by the end of the week and it feels completely overwhelming. You can break that down, you know, look at each day and look at the hours that you have in that day and how you can then schedule the time towards achieving that goal. You know, sometimes that goal is pie in the sky, especially when we don't put any sort of deadline to it, or we don't start taking those little steps towards that goal. And the only way we can do that is looking at the time that we have and how we can structure that time, how we can break down, as I often say, the elephant into one bite at a time so that we can keep moving forward towards that goal. So time management challenges. I mean, it's easier said than done. Maybe you're listening to me now going, yeah, that's great, Carol, but I have so much to fit in the day. How do I manage this time? I mean, really, you don't understand the challenges that I have. So, maybe you'd like to share right now, and perhaps you can pop something into the chat box, and Rita will kindly just, point that out to me. But what are some of the challenges that you are facing as a student when it comes to managing your time? Are you aware what those challenges are? Do you just feel that it's really just that there isn't enough time? Okay. So we'll maybe look at the chat just now, but please put your comments there if there is anything you'd like to share, and I'll definitely go back to that. But what are some of the time management challenges that we generally have? And maybe these are some, that you can relate to right now, especially as we sit here past mid-October, to be honest. But firstly, the time itself and the fact that you have limited time is a challenge, right? Again, I'm saying to you, the right thing to do to try stretch out a day and to get more time is not to cut back on our sleep, because we need our sleep to recharge our battery. When we cut back on sleep, we immediately find that things start to unravel for us. We start to struggle in terms of focus and concentrating. So things actually take a little bit longer, if we sleep deprived. We think that putting in that extra, hours in the morning to cram for that exam or that test is going to help. But it doesn't, because you've cut back on your sleep and you've actually depleted your battery before the day has even started. My son did that the other day. He was very distracted with playing with some of his toys, and he had homework to do. So I let him, play a little bit, and then I said to him, you need to come do your homework. I think he sat for about 30 minutes, and then I noticed he was gone again, and he said to me, no, Mom, don't worry. I'm going to set my alarm, and I'm going to wake up early tomorrow morning, and I'm going to get this done. Yeah. He did. I heard his alarm go off 30 minutes earlier than usual in the morning. But he could barely open his eyes. He could barely get any of the work done. I think he wrote one sentence of his speech, and he had to go face the consequences at school because he wasn't prepared for that at all. And his whole day was out of whack because of not managing his time better the day before, and then trying to buy more time the next day and cutting back on his sleep, which really didn't work. And I wonder, how many times has that happened to you? So another challenge that we have is that our schedules conflict. We're meant to be maybe in a meeting, and at the same time we're supposed to, maybe fetch a child from school, or we have to finish this assignment and we have to finish this project at work perhaps. And our our schedules just conflict. We can't always just separate the two and just say, please hold back on that one. I need to finish this first. It doesn't work like that. Life happens that those curveballs come, and that those conflict, those projects, those deadlines all seem to suddenly happen at the same time. You might be feeling quite burnt out as well. Maybe your battery is quite flat at this time of the year. You've been running a marathon and you're exhausted. It's just that final stretch and you're feeling really burnt out. So recharging, is important. You're not going to be able to manage your time if you're so exhausted. Also, that you don't have personal time. You may be not finding any sort of work-life balance at the moment, or study-life balance. You're just throwing yourself into achieving everything you need to achieve, and you don't even have time to look after yourself. You can have difficulty focusing. It could be because you're exhausted. It could be because you cut back on sleep. It could be because your battery's low. And maybe what you're working on isn't really challenging you enough, or you're not feeling motivated. So that can play a role in you having difficulties with focusing. And procrastination. Oh, our good friend procrastination. I'll put it off till tomorrow. Oh, I know it's going to be cutting it fine, but let me wait till tomorrow because I just don't feel like doing this right now. And maybe my phone is just so much more interesting right now, and scrolling Facebook or TikTok for the next hour is how I'm going to distract myself from the work at hand. So we'll talk a little bit more about procrastination just now. Sometimes it's because we overcommit. Sometimes we can't say no. Maybe you're like me. Anyone out there like me that's a people pleaser? We tend to want to just keep everybody around us happy, and we struggle to say no. So we overcommit ourselves and we stretch ourselves so thin and forget that we don't have capes and that we're not superhuman and we can only get so much done in a day. Sometimes we don't have support to help us. It could be, along the lines of support with childcare, managing our family, helping us at home. It can be even support in terms of you're not feeling supported at work. There's nobody to share some of the load with you, or just sometimes that there's nobody to talk to help share some of the load that you feel that you're carrying. I've touched on stress and anxiety already as part of burnout. That's also going to slow us down. We're just feeling so overwhelmed, so anxious about everything that it actually makes us quite stuck. We feel stuck and that we just can't move forward. We just can't even take those hours that are coming and do something meaningful with them. And then something we'll also chat about now is poor prioritization. Sometimes we feel we have so many things that are a priority. We have so many deadlines and so many things on our plate that we struggle to know what we should prioritize. What is the most important thing right now? I don't even know, because everything seems like it needs my attention right now. So maybe you can think to what are your personal challenges? Is it some of the things I've mentioned already? Is it that you're easily distracted and not using your time well? Are you one of the individuals that find yourself procrastinating a lot, just struggle to get going and to apply yourself and to get things finished? Maybe you're lacking energy, or maybe even because you're a perfectionist, you focus too much on one thing and allocate too much time to a task because you want it to be perfect. And then when you glance and look, you've lost so much time trying to get this thing perfect instead of just doing it to the best of your ability and not having such high expectations of yourself. And sometimes we don't think about tomorrow. We're so focused on just getting through things now. We don't look at tomorrow and see what opportunities are there and how could I perhaps spread some of this load over between today and tomorrow. Or I forget to look at the deadlines that I have tomorrow. And then I wake up in the morning and realize there's so much on my plate. And then I feel completely overwhelmed and I can't even get started. So how can I get more done in less time? So if you want to be more productive, you need to become a master of your minutes. All right, so now we're really going to look at how do we get things done with the time that we have. And the challenge that I want to give you to do on your own, maybe after the session today or when you have a few minutes later, I want you to think about your time wasters. What are the things that waste your time? Because if we're honest with each other and with ourselves, there's a lot of things that we do that waste hours in the day. And this is just sharing a study with you that was done to check on, employees and to see how the workers and the employees were using their time and what were the productivity killers in the workplace. So they found that 52% of people were distracted and losing time due to their cell phones and texting. I'm sure that many of you will feel you're quite guilty of that as well. I get little reports on my phone that tell me how much time I've spent per day on my phone. And sometimes I look at it and I go, what? How can I have spent an hour and a half on my phone? How is that possible? And I can't even remember what I was doing on my phone. I certainly wasn't making phone calls, but was I just scrolling on social media? What was I actually doing on my phone, just wasting that time? So of course, the internet, our cell phone and the internet is so connected these days. Most of us use our phones to get onto the internet. 44% of employees were losing time because of being on the internet all the time. So again, that's social media and what we're scrolling through. 37% wasting time on gossip, just, chatting and talking about nonsense in the office when they were in the, the office. Social media comes up there separately as 36%. Emails are a big time waster. And maybe you're thinking to yourself as I say that, but no, why would emails be a waste of time? Emails is part of, doing work and how I function. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you later, but we do waste a lot of time on emails and it distracts us. If we're in the workplace, co-workers dropping by, I certainly remember as well when I was studying and we'd go to campus, the time I would put time aside to go study in the library, but then I'd bump into some of my fellow students and start chatting with them, and I'd lose so much time. Next thing I had 2 hours to spend in the library and it's now down to 1 hour, and I'd wasted a full hour just chatting. And I'm not saying don't be social. I'm just saying sometimes we need to be purposeful and we need to watch time carefully, especially when we have so much to get through. Maybe we should rather cut that chit chat down to 30 minutes, than just losing track of time and conning ourselves into believing that we have all this time on our hands. Smoke and snack breaks also take a lot of our time. I do believe we need to take those breaks, to refresh during the day. We can't just sit and work non-stop for 8 hours, for example. We do have to have a few snack breaks along the way, even if it's getting up to stretch our legs, walk to the kitchen to get a glass of water or a cup of tea or something like that. But when that is a distraction and we're wasting our time, of course, it's going to eat away at a lot of the time that we have on hands. We also waste time in meetings. Sometimes meetings can be an email, or meetings drag on because they don't have an agenda. Sometimes noisy co-workers, or working from home, as many of us are, studying from home even, you have family members that are around you making noises, distracting. How many times while I've worked from home have I had to open my door and shout out at my son to please turn the TV softer, or to please stop singing at the top of his voice because I'm trying to work and he's distracting me with the noise that I'm making. And that's, life now as we try to work in this virtual world, this hybrid world that we have, and there's wonderful benefits to it, but it can also distract us a lot and waste a lot of our time. And here they also just shared that 10% of employees were losing time due to being in cubicles in the workspace. Offices don't have the benefit really of having your own office anymore. You may not have the benefit of having your own office if you do go to the workplace, but having those cubicles encourage us to engage with each other, which is also lovely. There are benefits there, but a lot of the time we waste time by chatting to people and listening in on other people's conversations behind us, and we struggle to focus. So I want you to be honest with yourself and to ask what distracts you. And maybe I can just ask, Rita, so that I can check that you can still all hear and see me and that you're still there. Would anyone like to share, would they like to make a confession right now in terms of what is their biggest time waster? Is there anyone that's feeling brave?
There we go. We've got a hand for Nompilo. We do have a couple of chats in the function, but let's give Nompilo a chance.
Thank you. Nompilo, go ahead. What's your biggest time waster, Nompilo? Are you maybe not able to unmute?
Morning, colleagues.
Ah, there we go. Hi.
I hope you are good. Thank you so much for this session. It's such an informative session. I think for me, it's cell phone and worrying about what people will say more than anything. To just wrap up, it's just to being a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I read one of the book that is saying, basically, there is no such as a perfectionist person, because that's at some point just wasting your time trying to rectify things that other people will overlook.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Nompilo. Thank you for being brave like that. Yes, I agree with you. Firstly, around the perfectionism, you know, there is
Mm.
no such thing as perfect. I think the sooner we let that go and the sooner we forgive ourselves for not being perfect, the better for us. We waste so much time and energy trying to be perfect. And I heard what you said there about you worry about what other people say, and you know, maybe they're judging us, that sort of thing. But I think we have to be confident in our own skin and with our own abilities, and be able to say to ourselves, you know, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm striving to be the best version of me that I can. And that's enough, you know, that's okay. If we make little mistakes along the way, we learn from them, we pick ourselves up, we grow from it. As long as we're putting in the effort and we're trying, that's okay. We don't need to be perfect. We set ourselves up for failure when we try to be perfect. And you said your cell phone right at the beginning. Absolutely. Isn't it crazy how our cell phones are our world? You know, it's the thought, my cell phone will just freeze because I know it's getting old now and I need to actually, you know, try to get a new phone. Sometimes my cell phone freezes and I actually start having like a mini panic attack because I don't know how I'm going to get through the day if my phone doesn't work. And I'm switching it on and I'm switching it off. It's worse than when Teams acts up, you know. We're so connected to our cell phone. And there's a saying for, there's a word for the fear of being without our cell phone. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. Many haven't. I'm going to share that with you today, and I hope you remember it. It's called nomophobia. So nomophobia, that is the fear of being without your cell phone. There's even a phobia around it now, you know, because if you were to leave the house and leave your cell phone at home, your whole world comes crashing down, right? You feel like you've actually lost a limb. We've become so dependent on our cell phones. And sometimes the best way to save time and to get focused is to switch our cell phone off for a while. And that's daunting. You got to really like give it a try, and you got to practice it and make it a good habit. But even just putting your phone on silent can help. You know, switching off notifications that pop up, notifications from all the millions of WhatsApp groups that we're on. It's the neighborhood WhatsApp group, it's the family WhatsApp group, it's the cousins WhatsApp group, it's the siblings WhatsApp group, it's the school WhatsApp group. I mean, I've lost track of how many WhatsApp groups I have. That's just some of mine that I've mentioned there. And they go off all the time. And, you know, we immediately, when we hear that ping or we feel that vibration, we think, oh, I need to look at my phone. And then we jump from there into the next thing. And then you blink and 20 minutes have gone and something you were meant to be finishing out of mind. You got to refocus and you got to get going again. So, oh, sorry, I couldn't hear someone. Do you want to share something, or is it just that you've mistakenly unmuted? Okay. All right, so let's continue. Let's look at some, and we've already touched on some of these, but other time wasters are just waiting for inspiration. You know, maybe that inspiration is just going to come by and hit me in the face, and I'm going to be like, yes, I'm going to get this done now. We got to dig deep and find the inspiration ourselves. Another time waster is doing everything by yourself. Sometimes it comes with issues of control and that perfectionism that we've been talking a lot about, but feeling you must do everything yourself. You know, delegating, we have to delegate sometimes. We have to get people at home, you know, maybe to pick up 1 or 2 chores so that they can free up some time. One of my biggest gripes in my home, and I'm sure you can think of a few, is that nobody else in my home seems to know that dogs need water, you know. So every day, twice a day, I have to go give the dogs water. And I often, you know, verbalize that, and I say, could you guys all take notice that animals need water? If they don't have fresh water, it is animal abuse. And could somebody else just for once help me with that? Because it would free up a few minutes of my day just by giving the dogs water, something that basic. We're worrying about what people will say, and thank you, you shared that. You're not living your life, just being stuck. You may be just in survival mode. You're not living your life. You're not thriving right now. You're just stuck in the mud, don't know where you want to go or what you want to do. That wastes time. We're losing valuable time when we're in a space like that. Sometimes just the fear of facing something and doing something wastes our time. We spend a lot of time complaining. I think we can all confess to that one. When you look, I mean, I've probably complained about at least 3 things already today, and it's not even yet lunchtime. But we complain a lot, and we waste so much time complaining instead of thinking of solutions and moving forward. Unfinished tasks, we waste time with that because then we've got to try pick it up again. We try to please everybody. We compare ourselves to others, so I'm not as good as she is at that, so I'm not even going to try, or I'm going to just be so worried about the fact that I'm not as good as I think somebody else is, and I can't do it as well as them, and therefore I struggle to even get started on the task at hand. Repeating the same mistakes. I mean, the important thing about mistakes is that we learn from them, that we grow from them. So you need to be careful if you're repeating the same mistakes all the time. You check yourself and try to figure out, like, why am I making these mistakes and what can I do differently? Perfectionism, we've touched on, and then lack of priorities, which we will get going on now. So, lost time. Time spent on your cell phone, surfing the net, worrying, starting and then stopping instead of focusing a fixed amount of time on something and getting it done and ticking it off the list. Social media, how much time have you lost on social media this week alone when you think about it? I mean, I don't even like the Kardashians. I don't care for the Kardashians, but it will pop up on my feed and I'll find myself reading some silly story about one of the Kardashians, and I have to stop myself and go, why are you wasting time on this? What does it matter about what, I don't know, Khloe or Kim Kardashian is doing right now? Does it matter? I've got more important things to do. And of course, that procrastination that I've mentioned to you. So it's important to keep in mind, and this is back to the self-management. We cannot change what we are not aware of. Once we are aware, we cannot help but change. So as you have that aha moment, as the light bulb goes on and you realize things like, my goodness, if I really looked at my day and looked at how much time I waste on social media, I'm quite frightened by it. I'm baffled that I'm losing so much time. Once I'm aware of that, I can take those steps to change. I can find ways then to limit my time on my phone, stop my phone from being a distraction, or to structure my time more carefully so that I don't get bored and find myself focusing on my phone. All right, I'm a bit worried. I'm not going to try play this video because of the fact that I don't think my sound is working. It didn't give me an option to put sound on. So forgive me, I'm going to jump it. It's just really a summary of a lot of what I'm saying about wasting time. And for the sake of time, we'll keep moving forward. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges, and maybe this made some sense to you as I was going through a lot of those time wasters, maybe making you feel a little bit guilty, which isn't my intention or intention. I'm just trying to make you aware so that you can put positive changes in place. But procrastination is often what stops us from really thriving and from, living our best life and our life to the fullest. We stop ourselves from even starting sometimes. We just don't get going. There's like this failure to launch. There's this, false perception in our heads that there's always enough time. I'll get it done. I'll put it off. And when you blink, time has passed you by. And sometimes we live with regrets then because of the fact that we've lost so much time. So procrastination is really one of those things we need to look at, and we need to dig a little bit deeper to figure out, why am I procrastinating? Why am I putting this off? Why can I not just get myself focused and get this done? So procrastination really is just avoiding a task. It's avoiding getting something done. It's knowing that you have that assignment due on Friday and just, not even doing it. And I can actually relate to a student who I'm supervising at the moment, who did have a deadline for yesterday. And I spoke to her last week and I said, you got to work hard this weekend. You're going to really have to focus and put a lot of time in and make a lot of sacrifices to get things done over the weekend. And when I checked in on her, if she'd submitted her portfolio, she said no, because she just couldn't get going. She couldn't get started. And she was so overwhelmed with everything she had to do to get it done that she just decided not to do it. So that's something we still need to figure out together. But that's what happens to us, the task at hand looks so big that we just think like, oh, I'll put it off. Maybe the energy will come tomorrow morning and then I'll really get going and I'll just push right through into the early hours of the morning and I'll get it done. But then we very often don't even get started and don't get it done. And I'm just going to skip that video. So something that we have to do, and maybe you've heard of this before, is we have to eat the frog. I've been told that many times at work. I had a colleague who used that a lot, and it was very helpful. I would visualize the frog, and the frog looked scary. The frog looked disgusting. I certainly don't eat frogs. I don't know if any of us on this call do eat frogs. I think it's mostly the French that eat frog legs. But really, eating the frog means that we start with the hardest thing on our to-do list and we get it done. So the ugly thing on the list that we really don't want to do, we eat that, we get that done. Because once we get that done, it motivates us and it shifts us to get going. So if you can, just have a moment where you think about, what are you thinking about? What's top of your mind? That is what you should be doing. That's probably the thing that's taking up your time and preoccupying your mind. That assignment that you have due on Friday that you haven't even started because you're procrastinating, that's the frog. And you're not going to become unstuck and you're not going to move forward if you don't eat the frog. And I thought I'll just put a little picture of the frog that we often need to eat. And this one is pretty cute, but he doesn't look like he tastes too nice, does he? Or her, maybe she's a she. But we have to eat the frog sometimes. You just have to swallow the frog, eat the frog, get yourself going, get unstuck, take that first step so that you can move forward. All right. So how do you prioritize? How do you then take everything that you have on that to-do list right now, all of those things that are up in the air or on your plate in front of you, how do you prioritize? How do you know even then which is the frog that you need to eat first to get unstuck and to get going? So it's just a helpful little way or tool that you can use to help you identify what your priorities are. And I want to warn you that you can't have too many priorities. A priority means that this is the most important. So you can have a to-do list as long as your arm. That's great or not great. But how many of those things on the list are a priority? What do you need to get done now? And what are the things that you could get done a little bit down the line that it won't matter? So this is Eisenhower's decision matrix that you could look at. And really there's 4 quadrants in this. And you can even just draw for yourself on a piece of paper if you want to use this as a tool to help you take control of things right now and to help you start with your time management. Put the 4 blocks down on a piece of paper and then head the 1, do, decide, delegate, and delete. And then you look at it in terms of what is urgent versus what is important. So something might be urgent because it has to be done by Friday. You have a deadline, you have to get it done. And it's important because 50% of your marks for the term are going to come from that assignment or that task you have to do at work. That task is the last task you need to complete before your boss sits and does a performance review to decide on whether you're getting a bonus or not. So look at the first block is the urgent and the important. You've got to do them and you've got to plan to do them now. Then you can shift over to what's important but not urgent. So it is important that that I get all my documents together and put all my assignments together into one portfolio. But it's not urgent right now because it's only due mid-December. I'm rather going to focus on the green things that I need to get done now because the timeline is a bit tighter. Then you can look at, what is not important right now and what's not urgent. So those will be things that you really can possibly give somebody else to do. Maybe you can delegate them to someone else in your home. Maybe it is that somebody else can unpack the dishwasher or put away the dry dishes or, wash the dishes or something like that. It's not urgent. It's not, greatly important that it's really going to impact on your goals and somebody else could take it on. And then you could free up a little bit of time to perhaps study a little bit more and focus more on that assignment that's due on Friday. And then there are things that really are not urgent and are not, important at all that you can just delete. It's those spam emails that come into your box. It's a task that you really just don't actually need to take on. It's not your, responsibility, for example, or it's not anything, big in your life. And sometimes it might mean that you sacrifice something, that it was something you really wanted to do. But right now, looking at what you have on your plate, this particular thing, is not urgent and it's not important and you rather need to let it go. Right, so I challenge you to draw this little block or these 4 little blocks and use this matrix to see if you can just prioritize some of the things that you have right now and see what you do then need to focus on and get done now and what you could put off till a little bit later. Still get them done, but just put them off for a little bit later. So deadlines, deadlines are killer, aren't they? We wish those deadlines could move out. We sometimes wish for a miracle that deadline will move. Sometimes we get lucky and it does, but very often we don't. And when I was speaking about the students that I've been supervising, the worst thing happened. The university moved the deadline forward. Neither her or I could predict that was going to happen. We thought she still had this whole week and only till next week, Monday, to submit. But last week, Friday, the email came that they moved the deadline forward. So the consequences then become significant, because it could have a real impact on our marks. It could have a big impact on our career goals and what we're achieving if we don't stick to deadlines. So it's important that you write down your deadlines. Put them in a calendar, I have a calendar here in front of me, which I then write down, those key deadlines that I have so that I don't forget. I also put them in my Outlook, in my calendar on my laptop, and make sure that I see them and that the alerts come up that I've got 1 week till my deadline, for example. And then think about the consequences. Evaluate what the consequence will be if you don't meet that deadline. Will you lose a chance at getting 50% of your marks for the term? Will you really struggle then, in terms of getting that performance bonus that you wanted, as an example? And then assess your capacity. How much capacity do you have? Where is your battery at the moment? How much energy do you have? What are the resources you have? What is the time that you have on hand? If you normally study for 2 hours a day and the deadline's on Friday, well, you've actually only got 4 more hours left, and that's your capacity that you need to fit in between now and between Friday to get that assignment done. And look at that regularly and reevaluate it. If you're managing to cut down time somewhere, you might be able to put a little bit more time into that project, into that assignment to get it done. And also break down large tasks into the smaller tasks that make it more achievable for you. Thinking of an assignment, for example, you might just take that assignment, start with writing the heading down in front of you or typing the heading so you can see. And then put aside an hour today to do some of the reading that you need to do, you know, some of the research that needs to go in, or reading through the module in, you know, the textbook or the slides that you have. So break it down into the things that you need to do to achieve that goal that you have on hand within the deadline that you have. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. And then use prioritization tools like what I shared with you. You know, what else can be put off right now? What do I need to shift out to next week while I focus on this? What could I ask somebody just to step in and help me with, because it's not important that I get that done, or it's not urgent, but it must still be done within a certain time. And what can I just let go of that I maybe need to sacrifice right now and that I need to let go of? And learn to say no. Stop stretching yourself to the limit. You know, no is a full sentence. It's difficult for us when we people pleasers and we perfectionists to use the word no, but we need to say no for our own sanity and for our own health sometimes. And because there is a deadline I need to get to on Friday. So I'm really sorry that I can't take on this extra, you know, presentation tonight. And I actually did turn down one tonight. But to say, no, I'm so sorry, I can't help with that one because I only have so much capacity. I only have so much time to get what I need done. And then when you need help, ask for help. You know, even if it is professional help that you really just are struggling to get going at the moment. So I've spoken about prioritizing. Not everything is a priority. Look at that to-do list and maybe take 2 or 3 things that are a priority right now that really need your attention. If you have 10 things prioritized, you're going to be lucky if you get half of those done. So you've already set yourself up for failure. And I want to quickly share with you, and I'm going to say the word correctly, I hope, the Pomodoro technique. So Pomodoro, just as a matter of interest, is an Italian word for tomato. And I don't know if any of you maybe have one in your kitchen or you've seen one in your kitchen, but we have those timers that we use in our kitchen. And traditionally, it's a red tomato. I'm going to show you in the next slide. And you would twist that tomato so that it counted down the time. I know sometimes now our ovens have it, or the microwave oven can do the same sort of thing. But that's the idea. Picture this red tomato timer that you might have had in your kitchen at some stage, and you give it a good twist. So that Pomodoro technique means that you set yourself 25 minutes. You've decided what the tasks are at hand. You put the timer on 25 minutes, which is your Pomodoro, and you get cracking and you get working and you work for those 25 minutes. Cell phone is away, emails are switched off. It's reading the research that I want to get through to write that assignment that's due on Friday. For 25 minutes, I give it my all. After the 25 minutes, when the buzzer goes, you take a 5-minute break. Only 5 minutes. Don't get distracted. Get back on your phone. Go dawdle. Go watch Netflix. Don't. Just take a 5-minute break to recharge your battery and refresh. And then you're going to repeat that. Okay. The trick behind the Pomodoro technique is that you repeat that 4 times. And that's going to make up a solid hour of work that you've done in. But by timing yourself and by taking that 5-minute break to refresh, get a glass of water, stretch a little bit, step outside just to feel the sun on your face, the breeze in your hair, just helps you to refresh. It gives you then that energy for the next 25 minutes. You set that timer and off you go. You do it 4 times. When you've accomplished that 4 times and the hour has done, you reward yourself with a 30-minute break that you can use to indulge in, you know, something that you enjoy. Maybe it's a lunch break, or maybe it is watching Netflix, whatever it is that you need to do during that time. And you reward yourself for that full hour. That's manageable for our brain. That's manageable for our energy levels, but it helps to keep you going. And it helps to keep you focused, and it helps to make sure that you get things done. I've touched on emails. I'm going to almost be finished now. I know that we're hitting the hour, but you need to look at emails. And for example, if you are at work, and you get a lot of emails, which many of us do in the workspace, because that's the main way of communicating these days, isn't it? You need to be careful about checking your emails all the time. And you can relate this to your WhatsApp as well, or any of your social media notifications if you use, for example, Facebook Messenger or whichever, platform that you use. Constantly checking it and being distracted by those messages, by those emails that pop up, that little envelope in whatever form and space it comes into your life, constantly going and checking it. We can do that for up to 20 times a day. And how much time do we lose every time we do that? We need to take control of that. We need to be more disciplined with our email and our WhatsApp status messages, whatever it is that's coming through. So rather do something like check it, let's say, every 2 hours. I tell you now that if that email is life or death, that person will phone you. You'll see your phone ringing, and then you can answer it because you'll realize, oh, something's crazy right now that they're actually phoning me. But if it's in an email, it can wait for 2 hours while you maybe do the Pomodoro technique, or while you really sit and focus for an hour on getting a task done. You can then set that time aside for your emails. I do my very best to do my emails in the morning. I sort of check in midday if I can. And then I try to check in the evenings as well, just before I'm switching off and logging off and seeing anything there that's important that I quickly need to wrap up before I say goodbye to the day. Finishing off quickly with just sharing here a real life challenge, because maybe, again, you've listened to me and thought, well, this is great, Carol, but I'm struggling. I'm a mom or a dad. I'm a student. I'm working. How do I get it all done? How do I look after myself? How do I keep dogs, cats, family members, children? How do I keep them alive, keep myself going, stay on top of these deadlines, meet everything that I need to do? And it is a reality. And this is just to share with you a solution as well, like how to possibly then plan a week. Looking at your studies, what are your priorities for your studies? Have you written down those deadlines and when they're due, and what the consequences are if you don't meet them? And how much time will it take? There might be an assignment that's really a difficult one for you, and it's not just going to take 2 hours. You maybe need to put 4, 5 hours aside even. So how much time is it going to take for you to get that done that you need to get done? And then create a schedule. Sometimes, and we know when we're studying, especially, it does mean sacrifices. It does sometimes mean that extra hour in the morning, for example, that you can put in that hour. I know when I was doing my master's a few years back, I would, in the evening, my study time was between 7 and 9 at night, when the household had settled and everybody else had gone to bed. I felt very sorry for myself, but it was quiet. I could stay focused, and I knew I had 2 hours to really get focused only on my studies at hand. And then Saturday mornings were running errands, maybe doing something with my family, but Saturday afternoons, I would also make sure that I carved out a few hours so that I could put some study time in. You've got to put that time aside and manage it. Having a study break in between is also important. And as I said, breaking it down into which evenings or which time in the evenings, and scheduling that in and then blocking it out. Those are the only ways that we get it done. And yes, sometimes sacrifices need to be made because you can't go, meet up with your friends as you'd like to, or perhaps your family goes on a little outing for the day without you. But remember, it's short-term pain for long-term gain when we're studying. And I'm going to finish off with the top 10 habits of successful people. They get up early, they read a lot, they spend 15 to 30 minutes each day just focused on their thinking and getting structured and planning. They make exercise a priority just to get that energy in, to keep healthy as well. They spend time with people who inspire them, who energize them, who help them to become unstuck and to lift them and to keep them going. They pursue their own goals that they've set and that they're passionate about. They get enough sleep. I've spoken a lot about that. They're lucky. They have multiple incomes when we're looking at some of the, the clever people that have really made a success of themselves, and they avoid time wasters. And a lot of these things are in your and my control so that we can become successful people. And I want to remind you that success is 10% talent, but 90% hard work. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't just mean that we're clever. Being clever helps, sure, but it's about the hard work that we put in. And we've got to put in the hard work and manage our time. So I'm going to finish off by saying, you've got this. You've got this. You've got this time. You've got this day. You've got the rest of this month and this year to make it happen for yourself. So go do it. All right, let me stop sharing and find my way back to you. Any questions or comments? Thank you. I do see that there's a hand up. Jermaine.
Hi, Carol. Firstly, thank you. Well presented. I think I needed this at this stage of the year. I think I'm suffering from year-end fatigue at the moment. I'm also a procrastinator. I put things off. So yes, that alarm bells ring in my head. What I want to know, will you be sharing this presentation? And then also in terms of York Academy, can they do more seminars like this or webinars like this for time management? Because I mean, in our world, being a parent, you're studying, you're working, and there's only so many hours in a day. So how do you get through it? So it can become like part of your daily routine. I love everything that you said, because you also added family time in there, you also added study time in there, and yeah, I just wish one day when I'm big I can be you, man.
Thanks, Jermaine. I might sound like I've got it all together right now, but it's easier said than done, isn't it? So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your kind words. And yeah, Jermaine, I think it's wonderful that Academy of York does provide these Wisdom Wednesdays, and certainly we can chat and see if there's more ways we can help. Maybe there's some worksheets, for example, that matrix that I shared. Maybe there's a worksheet we could, send out to the students who are interested, just to help a little bit more. I know that the team at Academy of York are just phenomenal. Your student advisors are there as well to help wherever, they can. So please do, make use of them. And yes, I felt like there was a third question that you asked there. Oh, the slides. Yes, absolutely. The team at Academy of York have the slides, and they can definitely be shared without a problem. And then the videos that I cut out because of time and worrying about my sound are there as well, if you'd like to watch a few more videos that might just be helpful and make some of the things I spoke about a little bit more concrete today. So thank you, Jermaine. Anybody else?
Thank
I know
you.
we've gone a few minutes over time, so I'm stealing some of your time now. But if anyone else wants to put in a comment or say anything, you're very welcome to. And Rita, I just want to thank you for co-piloting with me in the background. It is appreciated.
It's only a pleasure. Loved it, honestly, Carol. I've got goosebumps, just the thought of trying to find an extra hour for myself. Jeez, sounds like a good idea. I've jotted down so many notes. Jermaine, I definitely agree. I think we need to share these type of ideas with our students so that you can have the understanding of, all of the balls that we've got to juggle. Because to us, somebody mentioned in the chat function, I think it might have been Lucia. Sorry if I'm naming and shaming here, but I see here, everything is urgent when it comes to bosses, employees, meetings upon meetings. And after the meetings, I think Lucia mentioned, then we've got to do capturing of the minutes for the meeting. Prepare for the next meeting. So, it truly, I think it was really helpful. So many of us have commented, our personal challenges, and I'd like to share that in the chat function as well, where Jermaine has shared that it is challenging not having enough time to study because we spend most of the time at work. at home, challenging. Our kids are running around. Ezekiel mentioned
True.
we've got the noise makers. We've got the homework doers that we need to assist with. Other challenges that was, to say no. We find it difficult to say no. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. As someone also mentioned here, that we perfectionists, we want it to be done perfectly. We don't trust others. Lucia said that she doesn't trust other people doing things because it might not be done the way she would like. So yeah, I think I appreciate the sharing of the personal challenges, and it helps us to get an understanding that we're not alone in this.
Absolutely, Rita. So agree. We think sometimes we're the only ones struggling, Sometimes other people are so good at hiding it and masking it, and we look at them and think, oh, they've got it all together, look at them, but we don't know the struggles that they're going through as well. And I believe, when we share our stories and we speak to each other like this, we realize, like you say, I'm not alone. Like, oh my goodness, yes, I'm feeling that same way. I thought it was just me, So it's so helpful to have platforms where we can support and speak to each other. I do see your hands. So I
think it's Veronica.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm not sure if you're able to speak. Maybe you can just put your comment in the chat. Thank you. I'm trying to scroll quickly through the chat just to see everything. I'm seeing a lot of things about anxiety. Yes, when we feel overwhelmed, it's anxiety that starts to create, and then that causes us to stumble even more. So getting a sense of control is that first step to managing anxiety, because anxiety is very often triggered by a sense of being overwhelmed and not having control. So I need to commit to myself and get more done. Absolutely. And you can do it. You can do it. Thank you, everybody. I think let's love and leave each other. I see that people are logging off now. Go use your time effectively. Go do what you can and do your best with the hours that you have today. Make them count. And again, thank you all so much for joining today. I'm looking forward to our session next month together as well. So take care, everybody. Thanks, Rita.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you to everyone who joined. And if you are still online, we will be sharing the presentation to you all on email hereafter. And you're welcome to view it on Facebook. We'll put it on our timeline, so you could always go back to it as well. But yes, thanks so much for the time. And hopefully this is going to help us manage ourselves, to manage our time a lot better today. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Carol.
Thanks, Rita. Bye.
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 Thanks, everyone.